Hey, it's Nikki, and this is How to Be Proactive. Why the first 15 minutes of your experience are the most important. Arriving at least 15 minutes early to your experience can help you get ahead of most challenges that might pop up on your tour. Showing up early is not just for the guests. By being proactive with that casual time while you're waiting for the rest of your guests to arrive can actually make the difference between a difficult guest and a happy guest. And sure, we could theoretically cater to all potential difficult guests, right? Like picky eaters, those who didn't sign up for this tour by choice, the hungover, those worried about getting lost, right? But that's a lot of energy to spend on every single experience. Instead, if you take the time pre-tour to sneakily identify any particular challenges you might have on your experience that day, you can instead use your energy wisely because that busy season burnout is real, right? Most of you are probably already doing this on your tours, even subconsciously. A few strategic questions, some pre-tour assurances. In this article, I'll give an easy to follow checklist that can help you quickly identify challenges and solutions before the experience even starts. So, how to be proactive with the first 15 minutes of your experience? 1. Address your guests' immediate stresses. My number one advice to any guide is to take tours whenever you can. Food tours, free tours, museum tours, doesn't matter. The more variety, the better. It is very easy to forget what it is like to be the guest. And when you step into their shoes, it makes annoying guest habits like talking to a friend while you're giving information or checking their phone. It makes it less personal, right? A quick reminder, your guests often show up to your experience jet lagged, hungover, worried about how to get to their hotel, worried about making it to their lunch reservation, annoyed at their travel companions, stressed about not being able to find the tour guide, right? All of this has nothing to do with you, and yet can greatly affect the overall experience and mood of a tour. By being aware of these common emotions and making sure to address them as you are checking them in, even if you're going to repeat some of that information once you officially begin, you can get ahead of it. For example, you're nice and early. Thank you. I just want to double check with you. This tour ends at noon, right? So is there anywhere you need to be afterwards that I should be aware of? That one's pretty simple, right? Or maybe, thank you for being early. Did you have any trouble getting here? This way, it allows them to mention if they've gotten lost or they were stressed about getting there. And if you notice the stress, you can then assure them that you'll make sure they have specific directions before you send them on their way after the tour. Or you could try, you've made it, welcome. How are you feeling this morning? Very innocent question, but it invites guests to share if they're feeling tired or stressed. Often guests are not going to shy away from telling you how they feel. They tend to be very honest. If you want to take it to the next level, check in with them again midway through the tour. Same questions. Okay, number 2. Have a set of questions to help suss out potentially fussy guests. By interjecting very intentional yet innocent seeming questions into your casual conversation, you can easily identify even the most fussy guests, right? Especially the ones that more commonly show up. For example, when did you arrive? This one question can get you so many answers. Are they jet lagged? How much of this city have they already seen? Etc. You could ask, what has been your favorite thing so far? Right? By asking this, you can actually understand what their interests are, food, history, etc., based on what they already prioritized in their itinerary. You could ask them, is our city what you expected so far? This is a great question because it's a way to identify anyone who is struggling with culture shock, to put it kindly, right? If someone has a lot of negative things to say, you know you'll have to take a bit more care and ease them into things. Or maybe, let's say you're giving a food tour. So you signed up for a food tour. Are you foodies? This is a great way to start the conversation about food, which can tell you if anyone will be a picky eater. Very important to identify on a food tour early on. Or even, do you usually book tours when you travel? This can actually tell you so much. By their response, their reaction, you can get a sense of whether they willingly signed up for this tour or whether their travel companion is dragging them on it, right? And from all of these questions, what you're basically looking for are signs of level of interest in the tour content and emotion. Are you guys happy, tired, excited, hesitant, etc.? Okay, and finally, make a plan. With all this information that you've now gathered, you can now devise a plan. So if you've identified a picky eater, maybe you'll take some extra time to really explain the ingredients at each food tasting or relate it back to something that picky eater might be familiar with. If you've identified someone who isn't on the tour by choice, happens a lot, you can make a mental note not to take offense if their attention wanders. Or maybe you can make a point to casually chat with them and ask them what they're interested in between stops so they feel like it's social as well and not just information. Or let's say you've identified someone who's a bit nervous about navigating your city. Maybe it's a solo female traveler or someone who doesn't travel that often and they're worried about getting lost and not finding their way. You can make a point to always tell them what direction you're headed in, or show them on the map in relation to different landmarks or in relation to their hotel so they feel like they're learning a bit more about the, navigation of your city. And just to be clear, it is rare that a tour will run perfectly, even when you take the effort to plan ahead. But the idea is just to get ahead of anything that you can potentially control so that when something does inevitably go wrong, hopefully nothing big, but something small, you're not dealing with that on top of multiple smaller issues that you could have alleviated. Just making your job easier.